This is a rhino, and it's the ancestor of Triceratops. That's what dumb fuck idiots say. In reality, Triceratops has only one living descendant, and that is no one. He was the last of his evolutionary line and became the most dangerous herbivore in the history of our planet. A 12-ton tank that shattered bones with its skull and skewered predators with huge horns the size of the penis of a subscriber to this channel. And of course, Triceratops was the only herbivore that could actually kill the most dangerous predator in history, the T-Rex. And once, he did. But before that, we need to understand what exactly broke his heart, what turned him into such a monster. And for that, we have to rewind all the way back to the very beginning. This is Sitacosaurus, and 60 million years later, it would become the creature whose bloodline would kill an adult Tyrannosaurus. Just like Triceratops, it belonged to the group known as Ceratopsians. And sure, it didn't yet have a massive armored body or pop culture fame, just a beak and blind optimism. It weighed only 22 kilograms, even less than a single poop session from one of its descendants. And that's not a joke. An adult Triceratops could drop up to 30 kilos per dump, and in extreme cases, even 50. That's a bag of cement, warm and vegan. But back to our 1.5-meter Sitacosaurus. No horns, no frill, no real chances. Still, it managed to survive for 30 million years before dying out due to climate change, shifting ecosystems, and rising competition. In other words, the world got tougher, and walking around with a bird face just wasn't cool enough. But here's the important part. He wasn't a dead end. Sitacosaurus is the earliest known member of the Ceratopsian family, and it's from his branch that all the other armored legends would evolve. So no, he didn't become Triceratops. But without him, Triceratops would have never existed. And then, tens of millions of years later, on the other side of Asia, a new form appears, stronger, meaner, and much closer to a real monster. Protoceratops. Yes, he still looked like the guy who's about to get bullied for his appearance, but this time, he could fight back. He already had a frill, though it looked more like a backwards baseball cap than actual protection. No horns yet, but there was a jaw with serious intentions. Protoceratops lived in the Gobi Desert, basically the Mongolian Sahara, except instead of tourists, it was all dust, heat, and velociraptors. That's right, here comes the main antagonist. Velociraptor was to him what T-Rex would one day be to Triceratops. Fast, hungry, and armed with a murder claw. They fought often, and not always in favor of the herbivore. One of these fights became legendary. Archaeologists found a Protoceratops and a Velociraptor fossilized mid-battle. One clamped onto the neck, the other crushed its enemy's arm with its jaw. Both died, but damn, what a way to go. But the small Protoceratops, weighing only up to 200 pounds, knew that to survive in the harsh late Cretaceous period, it had to make a deal with the devil, who gave it its horns. Styracosaurus. It appeared in North America approximately 75 million years ago. How? It is quite simple. Evolution relocated through an ancient land bridge, Beringia. A portion of the Ceratopsia migrated from Asia to America, and there in new conditions on another continent with new predators and plants, the second phase began, mass growth. Paleontologists do not know for sure what caused the 200-pound Protoceratops to grow into the 6,000-pound Styracosaurus, whether it was the result of classic adaptive pressure, where larger body size and the development of horns and a shield gave an advantage in defense against predators, temperature, regulation, and competition, or whether it simply had a broken heart. But Styracosaurus was a real explosion in this branch of evolution. One large horn on the nose, 6 spikes on the shield, a jaw that could chew cacti, hypothetically, but it sounds impressive. and 18 feet tall. It no longer ran, it walked slowly, but in such a way that the ground asked for permission. They lived in herds, and they showed their horns not only to predators but also to other males. The world became social and aggressive. Then came Chasmosaurus. Not as aggressive, but more cunning. Instead of spikes, it had a huge shield on which it could display prehistoric advertisements. But most importantly, it had a completely new approach to survival, which would later help the Triceratops strike fear into the hearts of the largest predators of the time. Visual intimidation, social behavior, swearing, and an evolutionary focus on size. And it seems that it is Chasmosaurus that will lead us to the main character of the story. But this happened under rather unusual circumstances. Triceratops appeared in North America after Chasmosaurus as part of the same evolutionary branch. During this period, the climate on the continent was changing rapidly. Old species of ceratopsians were disappearing, and an ecological niche emerged, which Triceratops occupied, adapting to new conditions, larger predators, denser plant volumes, and tougher competition. This was not just a smooth evolution, but a rapid adaptation to a world that had become more dangerous and required more strength and complete armor. 68 million years ago, the Cretaceous period was coming to an end on Earth. Tyrannosaurs, ankylosaurs, and hordes of duck-billed hadrosaurs roamed the continent we now call North America. Pterosaurs with wingspans of over 30 feet flew through the air, and prehistoric wooded plains with trees reaching 70 feet in height grew all around, and it was under this green canopy that he chilled, Triceratops. It was the last great representative of the horned ceratopsids, the final chord of an evolutionary branch that began with Sitacosaurus in distant Asia. It appeared when most other ceratopsids had already disappeared. Triceratops did not displace others. It took their place when they could no longer survive. It lived on plains with mild climate where ferns, palms, and flowering plants predominated. It fed on low-growing vegetation, a lot and continuously. Its jaws contained hundreds of teeth that were constantly being replaced. Judging by the scale of the finds, Triceratops lived in herds. This gave them social advantages: communication, mutual protection, and hierarchy. In a group, it is easier to detect danger, react faster, and create a barrier for predators. But within such a herd, there was still competition, primarily between males. This is where its main evolutionary assets came into play. Two large horns above the eyes, one shorter on the nose, and another small one between the hind legs. In addition, it had a huge bony shield. All this not only scared off potential predators, but also played a key role in the struggle for dominance and mates. The skulls found show numerous healed injuries. Triceratops fought each other, pierced shields, and broke horns, but they survived. Their anatomy was designed not just for attack, but to withstand battle. The shield had another possible purpose: thermoregulation. Due to its large surface area with a network of blood vessels, it could help cool the animal in hot climates. It may also have served to identify friends and demonstrate strength without direct conflict, like modern elk or bison. The Triceratops is not just a horned dinosaur from a textbook. It was the product of millions of years of evolutionary pressure, a point where strength, strategy, and survival merged into one. And that was only the beginning of the most important part of its story, the part where it didn't just survive, but became a legend. Somewhere nearby in the same ecosystem, on the same plains, roamed a predator that everyone had heard of: Tyrannosaurus rex. Even those who are not interested in dinosaurs have heard about their duel. It is on t-shirts, in Lego sets, cartoons, movies, and every other children's drawing. Triceratops versus T-Rex, the most iconic confrontation in prehistoric history. And yes, it really happened. T-Rex and Triceratops are one of the few pairs of dinosaurs that actually coexisted at the same time. Both were at the top of their food chains, but on opposite sides. One was a killer that fed on other dinosaurs. The other was a tank that fed on vegan sausages, and when they met, it wasn't an attack or a hunt. It was a real battle of titans. T-Rex had a bite force of over 5 tons, teeth that could pierce bone, and powerful legs that gave it great speed. But Triceratops was not one to run away. The fossilized bones of Triceratops show bite marks from T-Rex, and the teeth of T-Rex show microcracks from horn strikes. Sometimes one got away, sometimes neither did. In 2006, archaeologists in Montana found a scene that went beyond scientific articles. It was called Dueling Dinosaurs. 2 skeletons were preserved in this fossil. One was a Tyrannosaurus, the other a Triceratops. The bodies are twisted, broken, with obvious injuries from the fight. There are teeth marks, punctured ribs, and broken horns. Everything indicates that they died at the same time, during the battle. At the cost of its life, this Triceratops managed to kill the most dangerous predator in history. It was revenge that the Triceratops took for its distant ancestor. We have already mentioned this battle when 10 million years ago in the Gobi Desert, its ancestor, Protoceratops, died in a deadly clinch with a velociraptor. History repeated itself, but now the horns were bigger, the predator was scarier, and the scene was even more spectacular. It was a battle that ended an entire era. But even such power did not save the Triceratops from what happened next. 66 million years ago, at the end of the Cretaceous period, an asteroid 10 kilometers in diameter fell on the territory of modern Mexico, causing eruptions, acid rain, global darkness, and the collapse of ecosystems. Within a few weeks, more than 75% of all living things, including dinosaurs, became extinct, and the Triceratops, along with all the others. The world disappeared, but it left a mark behind, and horny. A horn, I mean a horn,